have words from Lou Elizondo and more. It's time for another UFO news roundup. So get in there. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, please share on social media, and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. We have so much to go over today. It's going to be a lightning round. I'm just going to go through some Twitter stuff that I found since on vacation, and it just really fast. Okay, here we go. Lou Elizondo replying to somebody saying, basically somebody saying, what have we done? It's all for nothing. We haven't accomplished anything. And he says, let's see, DOD admits UAP are real in a flight safety issue. An office is set up to analyze UAP. Legislation was passed twice. Whistleblower protection is now real. Former senior got officials to admit UAP are real. International community are now engaged. And you have public hearings, etc., etc. Yeah, you're right. No progress. Maybe you could do better. I don't think so, Lou. I think you're doing a bang-up job. Now, we only need the powers that be to cooperate. And they are to a certain extent. We have the White House seemingly pushing the Schumer-Rounds amendment. We have a battle in the House of Representatives right now over speakership, and we may potentially get a pro-disclosure speaker, which could be really, really big. And so things are shaking, things are moving. We'll see how things play out, but things are actually looking very encouraging. There's some discouraging signs, like not getting the select committee, but potentially, if we get the right speaker, that could change. But yeah, there's just so much to go over. For example, UFO expert gives cryptic clue to location where crashed UFO spacecraft is stored. That's right, Ross Coulthart says he won't name the building because he thinks it might spark a Storm Area 51 type scenario, but he's dropped several cryptic hints about its location. And of course, we are talking about the giant UFO that Ross Coulthart says he knows the location of. This UFO is so big it cannot be moved. So, in other words, if we could find the location of this thing and get to it, boom, that's UFO disclosure right there. And Ross Coulthart won't reveal the location because that's something his source didn't want him to do. That would be betraying his source, and he's got so much journalistic integrity that he won't do that. Now, I respect that. I really, really do. However, I can also see the counter argument to that, which is that this would change the world. Boom, there's UFO disclosure right there, just sitting under a building somewhere. And if Ross would just pony up with that location, that would be UFO disclosure. So I can see an argument both ways. Violating your journalistic integrity to change the world, or else maintaining your journalistic integrity. And I get that. I get both sides. Let me know which way you think the pendulum swings. But he does go on to give us some clues. I can tell you the country it's in. It's not America, but what I can tell you is that the place where it is kept is used for another purpose. He says that whatever this building is, it's known for being used for a laudatory purpose. Okay, so it's not in America. It's used for a laudatory purpose. So that could be just about anything, right? So let me know what you think this building is in the comments below. Meanwhile, we have more from Ross. He did a great interview with Project Unity. Love that channel. And he shares a really interesting story here.
Sorry, go on. No, just one thing I wanted to add, and this is not the person I'm speaking with, by the way, but I did see a news article that was touching on the sort of things I'm talking about. And I've checked this guy out with a few sources, and they've said to me, you should be taking that very seriously. And have you seen this story about a guy he calls himself Scott Andrews. He's an Air Force veteran who's writing a memoir that Simon & Schuster have won a bidding war for publishing rights. And the logline for the memoir is a doozy, according to the article I've read. He's a former senior US soldier, decorated intelligence officer, conducted global counter-terrorism operations on behalf of the US. Shortly after returning from an overseas mission, he began to suffer from life-threatening rare ailments that defied medical explanation. Rather than succumbing, he instead began to experience special, inexplicable abilities, such as remote viewing, and his body began to heal, baffling doctors. As he sought more information about his health, Andrews came across a file compiled for him by his late father. It contained records from a past he did not remember, including documents indicating he was removed from school for weeks every year from the 1st through 12th grades. The records also contained a shocker, that he'd received an honourable discharge from the US Air Force and worked in space intelligence communications as a miner, and yet he maintains he has no memory of having served in the US Air Force. And it goes on to tell the story about how he met a doctor who'd worked for the CIA, who I suspect is Kit Green, and he was experiencing symptoms associated with the Havana syndrome. But what's really interesting in all of that is this story of young people in America being recognized for certain abilities and developed by the US Air Force. I'm very sure that's been going on. And I know it sounds...
It has. Yeah, the X-Men are real. They really do find people with special abilities and groom them. We've heard this from numerous sources over the years, sometimes some of the participants themselves. And it is fascinating, but it is to be expected, I guess. You would think that it would be true because these abilities do seem to be real. I know that from personal experience that some of them are real. And yeah, so of course the government, not being stupid, is going to, all appearances to the contrary, are going to try to develop these abilities and try to get these guys with abilities to work for them. And they're going to find ways to set up programs to get their own people to develop these abilities, like with the remote viewing program. And it's really interesting that this fellow received healing and also abilities from the phenomenon. I do need to dig into that story to find out more details about it. It sounds really fascinating. I've heard that Lou Elizondo has vetted this story, or at least says that this guy is on the level. So yeah, a really, really intriguing story. You know, I know from personal experience that the phenomenon can heal. Of course, my experiences were with the greater phenomenon, not necessarily the UFO phenomenon, but they're all interwoven with each other as far as I can tell. And if your experience or research has led you down a different path, let me know in the comments below. But that is definitely where my research and my own experiences have led me. And but yeah, just a really fascinating story, and I will find out more about it. And if you know more than I do, let me know in the comments below. Meanwhile, here's a bird riding another bird. What? What's going on here? Why is there a bird riding another bird? But that looks awesome. Are human-looking aliens or non-humans nicer than regular aliens? I don't know, but that is something you see a lot in experiencer accounts, is the Nordic aliens or the tall whites, separate species, seem to be more benevolent than the grays and the others. You know, who knows, but it is worth considering. And here's a tweet from the Wan: human-looking non-human intelligences, primarily benevolent for the most part. List below from McGee's The Alien Gene. I have not read The Alien Gene. If you have, let me know what you think about it. And 1. Most humanoid cases invite contact rather than force abductions. 2. Humanoids do not, and when they say humanoids, I think they mean human-looking aliens. Obviously, the grays are humanoid in the sense that they have 2 legs and 2 arms and 2 eyes, etc. But they mean human-looking aliens like the Nordics. Humanoids do not usually appear in bedrooms or manifest through walls. They require the contact to be outside a building. And yeah, that is interesting. That does dovetail with my research more or less. Sometimes people will be transported somewhere else, and they will be in their bedroom when they're transported, and they may meet the beings elsewhere, but they don't just come into your bedroom. Yeah, witnesses frequently recall humanoid contact, while other ETs block memories in the witness's mind. I'm trying to think of cases where human-looking ETs have white people's minds. I believe they have. But I can't pinpoint a specific instance at this exact moment. However, I do think that has taken place. But yeah, if you can identify a case where that has happened, let me know in the comments below. But I do think that some of David Jacobs' cases where people's minds were wiped, they were dealing with hybrids primarily, or a lot of those encounters were with hybrids, which are human looking, but those are not the Nordics that we're talking about. So I could have that conflated in my mind, the human looking hybrids versus the behavior of the Nordics. So I think that's really interesting. In my research, the Nordics will teach people really interesting abilities. They will teach people how to heal, how to have remote viewing, and other interesting, very woo-woo sort of things, like how to read auras and various stuff. It's really interesting that the Nordics do seem to be this enlightened race that wants to help us. You know, as true as that seems to be from a lot of experiencer accounts, it's also so stereotypical in Hollywood, right? You have the evil reptilians and you have the benevolent Nordics. It's, you know, it seems so scripted. I don't know how much faith to put in this narrative that they're weaving for us, but it is fascinating and definitely worthy of consideration. Humanoids stress and respect free will in humans. Other species insist they have a right to violate our bodies in basic rights. Yeah, the Greys are not nice, at least a lot of them. 5, while humanoids impart information, they rarely dominate the minds of contactees. 6, although they can communicate telepathically, humanoids speak fluently in many languages. Yes, and that's true. The Nordics will speak with their mouths, not just their minds. So really, really interesting. I have not read The Alien Gene, but I think I need to put that on my list. I think I'll wrap this video up with some words from Tim Burchett.
Some of them are archaeological and digs that people have found. Some of them are craft that have crashed recently that have just been covered up. But there's kind of a cutoff, I think, because of the technology. And that leads me back to that electro whatever radio that we think maybe caused them some difficulty and that caused some of these crashes, and that our technology has moved past that now. So you're probably not seeing those type of those crashes happening, if they are happening at all, because we've moved past the technology that we were using in the 40s and 50s and 60s. And
that's a really interesting idea, that our low-tech radar was not something the UFOs were prepared for, and that caused them to crash, which is, you know, a narrative that you see sometimes. And a really interesting idea. Could be true, could not be true. And that we've become so sophisticated now that we no longer have that effect on the UFOs. Of course, there are so many accounts of us shooting at UFOs and bringing them down with both conventional weapons and non-conventional weapons that we probably don't need the radar anymore, but that is a fascinating idea. Tim also talks about how we may have recovered these things from archaeological sites and stuff. So really, really interesting. I love it, Tim. I can't wait to see what you do next. Anyway, that's all I've got for you right now, but let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up. I sure would appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button and the bell to be notified of future videos. You don't miss a thing. Join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. I would love to see you guys there. If you wanted to share this video on social media, that would be super groovy. If you wanted to support Cosmic Road in a bigger way, please consider becoming a channel member. Channel members are rock stars, and I really appreciate you guys' support. Thank you. Meanwhile, there's plenty of other videos to check out on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.